Whew, it's cold outside. Good thing it's nice and toasty inside here. But it's kind of dark. Best turn on the light. And also, I don't even know how the big game's going. Best check it on my phone using the Wi-Fi. Finally, since I'm a bit thirsty, best just get myself a bit more refreshed. Have to appreciate life's conveniences. Our fifth and final example. In our last example, we talked about recreation. Recreation is a core government service and has been for generations. What is a more pressing question is what kind of recreation we offer. It's important to consider who pays for and who benefits from recreational opportunities. I think most of us can accept if wealthier areas subsidize a poorer part of the community by a bit. What if it's the other way around? We discussed marketing and who we try to reach, knowing sometimes it's a long back and forth dialogue until we get it right. As we've done with our other examples, we start by defining what infrastructure actually is. It is the physical, tangible assets that serve as the glue in our lives. Roads connect us. Utilities provide a degree of safety and comfort at the flick of a switch. I don't believe I'm exaggerating when I say much of civilization is defined by the infrastructure of the time, just as life has changed with the coming of the internet and the infrastructure it takes to connect us to it. For our purposes, we include the initial constructing of the infrastructure, maintaining it, and eventually replacing it. It all matters. It all matters because it's all very, very expensive, and thus we turn to capital planning. It takes multi-year, if not multi-generational funding plans. Massive bridges, long roads, miles and miles of utility lines. It's not just the raw materials, it's labor, it's equipment, it's logistics and administration, it's engineering. In other words, decisions today are felt decades later, just as decisions made decades before still impact us now. If we were to be a bit more on the nose when it comes to equity, our infrastructure today matches the values, norms, the favoritisms and prejudices of people before our time. New development rarely pays for itself. To a degree, new development must be subsidized by, if not current, then future taxpayers' money as we pay off the loans and interests. For any who claim they'll make development pay for itself, ask for the numbers, and there's a good chance that only some of the development costs are being paid for by the developer. To a degree, this is fine. It's how we fund growth. However, the question is how much and who specifically ends up footing the bill. The quality of our infrastructure is not equal. Whether how well roads are maintained, how clean and good tasting our water is, even internet speeds can range from state-of-the-art to barely functioning to even non-existent. The question then is, what is acceptable? What is acceptable for our businesses? What is acceptable for our residents? Do we have different standards, and if so, why? It's also a matter of luxury versus need. We are allowed to provide some luxuries. We can prioritize a state-of-the-art bridge, or better water meters, or any number of additional features that, though not a need, does increase quality of life. Once again, increasing quality of life, though, for who? All our residents, or just some? What comes first? There are always more capital projects we can come up with than we have the money for, even when we spread costs over several years. So what comes first? What's our next big, urgent, life-changing infrastructure project? What's so far down the list that it may as well not even be on it? We have to answer the questions. When it comes to equity, do we find the decisions we're making heavily favor one area over another? Are we leaving some people behind without thinking of them, or dare I say on purpose? And again, the priorities we make today will be felt years from now. Just as we're currently living with the decisions of the past, so too are we helping or harming the next generation with our infrastructure choices today. When it comes to infrastructure, the word we can start with is dialogue. We can have a dialogue internally, externally, locally, and regionally. Where are we at, honestly, with our roads and utilities? Where are we headed under our current trajectory with our current plans and funding? Where do we need to be to maintain whatever minimal acceptable standards we've put forth? Who will feel the positive and negative impacts the most? the least? Do we see a pattern? It's all about transparency. Most people don't think about infrastructure on the day-to-day, at least not the decisions of what to build where. So we aim for a dialogue with at least some people, with some people who will otherwise face challenges if they don't make their voices heard. Our optional exercise is on capital projects. What's some of the current and upcoming capital projects for our communities? What's the rationale? Beyond, of course, things like it's important or it'll help. Why now? Why this first? How long will it take to build, to pay off? And as we've talked about, who benefits and who not so much. We're now wrapping up our 5th section of preparation. We started with outcomes and how we should focus on it first and foremost. We moved on to 2 of our most important resources once we start engaging with equity, time, and effort. We emphasized the need for a team. We cannot do equity work alone. We just can't. Our role perhaps, but not everything. When it came to budgets, we aimed to demystify, make it more approachable and understandable. For planning, we can do right, to really think of how we can benefit the most people and those most in need. For clerks and civics, we are proactive, opening the door for people to participate before important and controversial issues pop up. For recreation, we market, and we keep marketing and communicating with those we want to provide a better quality of life for. And finally, for infrastructure, we just covered having a dialogue, of asking tough questions honestly and transparently so that people decades from now can look back on our decisions and why we made them, as they'll have to do the same. Up next, we have our 6th and final section of the guidebook in the series, the conclusion. Our next theme is reflection.